Welcome everyone to another deep dive. Today we're really digging into something I think we all struggle with at some point, right? Resisting temptation. It's universal, isn't it? Totally. And there are tons of sources out there offering advice on this, but the one we're looking at today really caught my eye. Oh yeah. What makes this one stand out? Well, it's not just about, do this or don't do that when it comes to, say, lust, which is our focus today. It gets into the nitty-gritty of WHY, the psychology, and the spirituality of it all. Intriguing. Sounds like a more holistic approach. So, where do we even begin? This source dives right into mindfulness, but not the way we usually think about it. It's more about, really understanding those subtle thought patterns we have that even unknowingly might lead us down a bad path. Okay, I'm with you. So it's not just about being aware of our thoughts, but recognizing the patterns they form, right? Yeah, exactly. There is this one part that really resonated with me, talking about how replaying past encounters in our minds, there's little fantasies we sometimes have. Oh, I know exactly what you mean. The source was saying how even though it seems harmless, it can actually make resisting temptation in the present way harder. It's like we're constantly snacking on junk food, right? Yeah, feels good at the time, but ultimately works against our long-term goals. That's a great analogy. And speaking of things that work against us, the source also talks about something that I think is a huge issue these days, and that's unintentional exposure to adult content. It's everywhere online, isn't it? Yeah, it's so easy to stumble across, even if you're not actively seeking it out. Exactly, and the source argues that those little glimpses, even if they're unintentional, they can create pathways in our brains that actually work against us having those healthy, loving relationships we crave, like planting seeds, right? Every exposure can take root and grow into something we never intended. Exactly. It's kind of scary when you think about it like that. It definitely makes you want to be more intentional about your digital environment, that's for sure. Yeah, for sure. So, okay, we've talked about the problem, but what can we actually do about it? This source thankfully offers some pretty concrete steps we can take. Okay, lay it on me. What's the secret sauce? Well, it's not so much a secret sauce as it is a bunch of different ingredients that all work together. You've got things like cultivating that mindfulness we were talking about, connecting with people we trust, prayer, studying religious texts. It's almost like building a fortress, right? Yeah, brick by brick, each good habit strengthens our defenses. Love that. It's so true. And you know what else I found really interesting? How the source emphasized that these steps actually support each other. Oh yeah, totally. Like how they talk about journaling and reflecting before bed. Yeah. It's not just about processing our thoughts. It can actually help us sleep better. And when we're well rested, well, we all know how much easier it is to resist those urges. It's like a positive feedback loop, everything working together. It is, and it's funny because I feel like we often compartmentalize these things. Sleep, temptation, spirituality. But this source really highlights how interconnected they all are. Absolutely. And speaking of spirituality, that's another key aspect of this source that I found really interesting. Right, it goes beyond just personal morality and frames this whole struggle as something bigger. How so? Well, it talks about this idea of and this might sound a little dramatic to some, but a spiritual battle against negative forces. I can see how some people might find that a bit much, but I get it. I think it speaks to how real and powerful these urges can feel, sometimes it really does feel like you're fighting against something bigger than yourself. Totally. And whether you buy into the whole spiritual battle thing or not, I think the core message is still so relevant. There are forces, both internal and external, that can really throw us off course. Oh, absolutely. Whether it's societal pressures, addictive patterns, or just our own internal struggles, recognizing those influences is huge. So true. So as we start to wrap up this deep dive, I'm curious what's resonating most with you from all of this. Yeah, for me, it's that emphasis on understanding the why behind our actions. Yeah, we can have all the best strategies in the world, but if we don't understand the root of the problem, it's like putting a band-aid on a broken bone, Totally. And something else the source really drove home for me is that this isn't about being perfect. We're all human, we're gonna mess up sometimes. It's about progress, not perfection. 100%. It's a journey, not a destination. Perfectly said. Okay, before we go, one final thought to leave everyone with. This source talks about temptation being a universal human experience. If that's true, and I think it is, what does that tell us about our capacity for both darkness and light? Just something to think about as we navigate this crazy thing called life. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive, everyone.